The old house stood on a hill overlooking the quiet town of Oakhaven, a skeletal silhouette against the bruised evening sky. Locals whispered tales of its former owner, Elias Thorne, a reclusive clockmaker said to have dabbled in strange, forbidden arts before vanishing without a trace 50 years ago. Tonight, however, it was just a challenge for Leo, a daredevil teenager with a reckless streak, and his younger sister, Mia, who, at 16, was often dragged along on his wild schemes. Leo, a lanky 17-year-old with a shock of unruly brown hair and an unshakable grin, had dared Mia to spend the night in the Thorne house. Mia, quieter and more prone to anxieties, had only agreed because she desperately craved her brother's approval. Her personal desire was to finally feel brave, to prove to herself and to Leo that she wasn't always the scared one. Leo, on the other hand, was driven by a need for thrills, a way to escape the mundane hum of their small town. The air inside the house was thick with the scent of dust and decay, a musty perfume that clung to their clothes. Moonlight, fractured by grimy windows, painted distorted shadows on the walls. Cobwebs draped like forgotten tapestries, and the floorboards groaned under their tentative steps, each creak echoing in the oppressive silence. A broken grandfather clock stood in the main hall, its hands frozen at midnight, a silent testament to the moment time itself seemed to cease within these walls. Their central conflict began subtle, a creeping unease that settled in Mia's stomach. Leo, ever the showman, tried to lighten the mood with exaggerated ghost noises, but even his bravado started to falter as an inexplicable chill permeated the already cold air. They explored the ground floor, each room a tableau of abandonment, overturned furniture, scattered papers, and the lingering sense of something else. The tension began to build when they reached Elias Thorne's workshop. The room was crammed with half-finished clock mechanisms, gears and springs glinting eerily in the moonlight. In the center, a large, intricate clock, unlike any they had ever seen, dominated the space. Its face was blank, and strange, unidentifiable symbols were etched into its metallic frame. As they stepped closer, a low, rhythmic tick-tock began to emanate from the clock, faint at first, then growing louder, impossibly loud, as if the very heartbeat of the house was within it. Mia's anxieties flared. "Leo, we should go. This feels wrong." But Leo, ever the showman, insisted. "Just a few more minutes, Mia. Don't tell me you're scared now." Suddenly, the workshop door slammed shut, plunging them into near darkness. A cold wind whipped through the room, despite all windows being closed. The ticking grew deafening, vibrating through the floorboards, through their very bones. Shadows on the walls began to writhe, taking on grotesque, fleeting forms. Mia shrieked, grabbing Leo's arm. He fumbled for his phone, its flashlight beam a weak defense against the encroaching dread. The climax arrived with a horrifying clarity. As the light from Leo's phone swept across the room, it illuminated a figure coalescing by the grand clock. It was tall and gaunt, shrouded in shadow, its form indistinct, but two pinpricks of glowing red light gleamed where eyes should be. A raspy whisper filled the room, not from the figure itself, but seeming to emanate from the clock, from the very air around them. "Time is running out." The figure lunged. Leo, finally shedding his bravado, shoved Mia behind him. They scrambled toward the door, but it was sealed, unresponsive to their desperate tugs. The air grew impossibly heavy, crushing them, and the incessant ticking morphed into a frantic, chaotic thrumming like a dying heart. The message was clear. This house didn't want them to leave. In that moment of pure terror, Mia saw something in Leo's eyes she had never seen before. Fear. Not just for himself, but for her. Her own fear, which had always defined her, suddenly shifted. She wasn't just scared, she was determined. Looking frantically, her gaze landed on an old, dusty tome lying open on a workbench, its pages covered with the same strange symbols as the clock. "The clock!" she screamed over the cacophony. "The symbols! There has to be a way to stop it!" Leo, still grappling with the shadowy entity, looked at her, a flicker of hope in his eyes. He trusted her. This was Mia's moment. Ignoring the terrifying presence, Mia frantically scanned the book. Her eyes landed on a specific sequence of symbols. With trembling hands, she reached for the clock, finding small, hidden dials etched with the same markings. Following the pattern she saw in the book, she twisted the dials one by one. As the last dial clicked into place, an unearthly shriek tore through the house. The shadowy figure convulsed, dissolving into wisps of black smoke that were sucked back into the grand clock. The frantic ticking ceased, replaced by a deep, resonant thud, as the clock's pendulum swung once and then stopped. The oppressive air lifted, the light returned, and the workshop door slowly creaked open. They stumbled out of the house, gasping for breath, the first rays of dawn painting the horizon a hopeful orange. The old house, now bathed in the gentle light, looked less menacing, more like a forgotten relic. They didn't speak much on the walk home, the shared horror still fresh. Mia, however, felt a profound shift within her. She had faced her deepest fear, not just of the house, but of her own perceived weakness. She had acted. She had saved them. And Leo, quiet and subdued, looked at her with a new respect. His need for thrills seemed diminished, replaced by a quiet awe for her sister. The adventure had changed them both. Leo no longer needed to prove his bravery through reckless acts. He had seen true courage in Mia. And Mia, no longer just the scared one, had found her own inner strength. The accident house on the hill, they realized, hadn't just been a place of terror. It had been a crucible, forging their individual and shared courage. The underlying message was clear. True courage isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in its presence. And sometimes the greatest strength can be found in the quietest of hearts. If you liked the story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more.